We have, of course, with us Ria. Ria is a doctoral researcher at Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University in Delhi, but then and she is basically expertising on caste atrocities, and the Civil Caste and Civil Rights Prevention of Atrocities Act. She is also a part of the core leadership committee of the Dalit Women Fight, which is basically India's struggle and largest Dalit women collective, and they are doing impressive work. And she also works on the ground with the survivors of caste atrocities of Dalit community, and as much as 5 states of North India. I invite Ria. Uh, Ria is again is a very senior doctoral scholar in Ambedkar University in Delhi, and she has been at the forefront to sort of investigate caste-based atrocities, and she's been working on at the grassroots level. And she's also in the core leadership team of Dalit Women Fight. Those are doing fantastic work. Uh, so without much ado, I request Ria to really go ahead and
Hi. So
thank you.
basically, I'm going to talk about two prestigious institutions where I'd spent most of my academic life. So one has been TIS Mumbai, and another is CWDS, which runs a collaborative PhD course with Ambedkar University, Delhi. So I did my MA from TIS and pursued my MPhil and PhD from CWDS AUD. So both of these institutions are held high in esteem for the academic credentials of the faculty members who teach here. They are extremely radical, they are progressive, they are feminists, and they're leftist. Some have been a part of women's movement in India, and some have also claimed to be themselves to be anti-caste crusaders as well. So not only they have all these qualities, in my experience, I also think that they're hyper casteist as well. So what we see in cases of caste discrimination is a new pattern where that has emerged. However, unfortunately, for something to qualify as caste discrimination, there has to be a higher degree or intensity of harassment or a very clearly visible or verbal caste abuse, like people look for abuse that would qualify to be caste atrocity. However, the pattern of harassment and means of gatekeeping has also evolved over past 10 years. So the forms of exclusion and abuse that we see now are more subtle and largely everyday in nature. It is a very normalized part of a classroom. There is an everydayness to it. Like there is no one incident that happens, like big incident that is casteist. However, what we see is that it keeps on building every day. In everyday classroom, these caste practices or behaviors which are discriminatory are in form of humor or in form of subtle insults are being shared or thrown on Dalit students. So, in my experience, while navigating or pursuing a case of caste discrimination, the war we fight is largely about endlessly explaining what just happened qualifies to be casteist and why. And in return, what we get is a constant denial, and more often in the progressive spaces. Like what we saw in IIT Kharagpur cases, that the Seema Singh was like bluntly outspoken, and she actually said out the words, like she said bastard. However, I'm still unsure whether the committee will, qualify this as caste abuse, because they might say it's an abuse but not a caste abuse. So what we see is that in a progressive space, they deny. Like even if we produce an evidence, we explain it to them. We bring all kinds of explanatory uh, evidences that are needed to support our argument. There's a constant denial from them that we are from these particular departments who are fighting for equality, or who are famous, or who are standing up for women's right. How are you even accusing us to be of something like a caste discrimination? So their denial also comes in a very powerful manner, that we are left aghast that what more can we do to actually explain or seek some sort of a relief for what we are experiencing. So I totally disagree with people who say that upper caste people or these faculty members need to be educated, because I believe that they clearly know what they do. All I can agree is that they are repeated offenders and they just don't want to, change, or they don't care about what they do to Dalit students in the university. So gender studies departments are largely dominated by women. Most of the students are women. Most of the faculty members are women. So, and obviously, the department is supposed to be more sensitive, which is building pedagogy around discrimination and talking about women's rights. However, these spaces cannot be assumed to be free of caste discrimination. My 8 year of experience comes from this department. I will bring forth two of my experiences out of many other experiences to explain myself further. So, like back in 2012, I was in TIS Mumbai doing my master's. So, there was a course on caste, class, and gender. So, we were to be evaluated on an assignment where we had to write our own caste experiences. So, I don't know how much wrong could we go in writing our own caste experiences while we are in our MA degree. So I chose to write an assignment on how my parents prepared me before I could enter university, like before I from passing out from school to enter my graduation. So in this assignment, that professor gave me 4 on 10. And my other colleagues and classmates who were also from DBA group were also graded less, or some even failed with grades like 3.6, 3.8 out of 10. So I was given 4 on 10. So I applied for a revision of a grade and wrote an assignment again. And then in the reevaluation or in the fresh assignment where she gave me, graded me 4.5 in my second attempt. Uh, so at CWDs and AUD, there's another experience where one of the faculty member told me that SC/ST students should be officially given 7 years to complete their PhD because they just cannot finish in 5. So the general students can have a time frame of 5 years, and SC/ST students, just because they need a lot of assistance and they're not academic enough, so why not we officially announce a 7-year program for them? So this clearly had shaken me, and this showed their prejudice against SC/ST students and people coming from DB communities, that they have this prejudice that we just cannot finish a course in a given time frame. Reason being that they think that we have language issues, we need more training in academic language, which I think stands equal for all students, because research degrees, all the students who enter research degrees are doing research for the first time. And there have been students in my course who had been Brahmins and upper caste and had studied in regional medium schools, basically cleared their class 12th in Hindi. I don't see that the faculty members hold similar prejudice. Rather, I see them more cooperative and supporting them in learning English and developing on their thesis. Whereas when it comes to DBA students, the faculty members just give up on them, stating this reason that they will take much more time to learn, and they're just being on their own and not much supervision is given to them. Along with this, during my MPhil, a tribal student was compelled to drop out of the course because she was told numerous times that her language is not academic enough and she's not good enough to carry on with an academic degree of this kind. So this all of this was happening informally, telling her when the professor would meet her, or just on a text message. So knowing this friend who was a friend, so she shared this all with all of us, and then we tried to take it up, and we said that we'll help you out, we'll work together, we'll develop on your work, no problem. But she herself felt so much down, and she felt she convinced herself that she's not good enough, and she eventually one day stopped coming to the university. So in such cases, we see that even if there are groups to support, even if there are friends to comfort, the people in power, the faculty members, have so much of power over students to make them feel so low about themselves that they have no other option to just give up. There have been these professors who are these fancy looking leftist professors who would not leave a chance to even comment on clothes and appearance of research students who come from DBA communities. And this is extremely ridiculous. This happens in the so-called prestigious universities in India. Both CWDS established in 85 and AUD established in 2008 still do not have SC/ST cell in place. And my experience of taking up cases of caste discrimination is that university will first not take up the complaint at all. It will call it a petty issue, or students fighting with each other, or they'll just term it as ideological differences between two political students. And if eventually they make up a committee, then it would hardly have a representation of a faculty member from SC/ST group. And even like, we have passed that phase where there is no representation. So they will actually put a SC or a ST, a faculty member on a committee. But since we know that, there are the representation of SC/ST faculty members in a campus is really low, and a number of professors, associate professors on the SC seat are also low. So even the faculty members who are in the committee, they also undergo a lot of pressure of, they just can't afford to be unbiased. So I would not say that, they play against the students, or they are unable to produce a sort of a report which goes in our favor. But in my experience, the reports in most of the committees that are the cases I've taken up, the report tends to be very neutral. It doesn't tend to hold the accused, accountable. Somehow there is some pacifier that comes in between, until unless the case is like of a physical or really high intensity violence between two students. So when they also bring in our people, I think there's also a pressure on our people that how can they be uprightly so for example, if they're writing something in our favor, they're contested in a committee where others are also sitting. It's not a complete SC/ST committee that sits there who is free to express what they feel. They are also intimidated while sitting in a committee room. So I believe that, this Bombay has a very good model of SC/ST cell where all the members are from the community, and they can actually come up with judgments which are in favor of DBA students. However, these temporary committees that are set up in universities, they have failed to actually do any good to students who come up with their grievances or cases. To conclude, I would say that even the SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act, it is inefficient in tackling the new forms of atrocity that take place in like urban areas and academic institutions. Because if we see the list, it enlists largely the crimes which are still predominant in rural and semi-urban areas. So I would not hesitate to say that the present list of POA Act just does not address the crimes that are being committed on SC and ST students in the university spaces. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ria, for those interesting observations. I remember that how, in fact, the urban spaces, especially the university spaces, are being touted or being sort of glorified or eulogized by the liberals, of course, the Savarna liberals, that these are, of course, the caste-less spaces. But of course, because they say that they have quote unquote transcended those spaces because they have engaged with modernity. So these are kind of modern spaces. So these are casteless, but of course, the amount of trauma, humiliation that goes, with the Savarna definition of merit is havoc. So, and Seema Singh is one out of many, probably millions, right after 1947 or before that, because since it started from Vedic age. So anyways, I once again thank Ria for the kind of work that you do and for the presentation, of course. Thanks for coming.